Hey, welcome to the At Home Dad Show. I am Baker.
And I'm Adam. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for listening. How you doing, buddy?
I'm feeling great. We had the wives on last week.
That was fun.
It was fun.
It was a good conversation. I feel like I wanted to keep talking for hours, but I was afraid that we would bore everybody.
Yeah, I want to get a little deeper when we have him on next time.
Yeah, we should have him back.
Anyways, so we had an expert on a couple weeks ago, and then today we have another expert. It's like expert month, which I'm very excited about.
This is super fun. All right, so today we have Amy Schnabel. She is a registered dietitian with 18 years of experience. She's currently a clinical dietitian at a large university hospital and a mother of 2 kids. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
Yay! Thanks for coming out to the man cave.
I love it.
So I,
Yeah?
diet.
I know. Food. Things.
I love it. I just to get it out there, I've had food issues my whole life. I was very, very skinny until, I don't know, it was maybe 10 years old, and then I just ballooned up overnight, and it's been sort of nonstop ever since. And I was trying to make a list of the things that I have done, and I think it's far too extensive.
What happened when you were 10, though? Was you think like hormones?
No,
changed?
I think it was the parents.
Sports?
My mom was a single parent, and my dad kept trying to get into the picture, and it didn't work.
Okay.
And we moved a lot.
Right.
We moved from Minnesota to California, and we were in California for 5 years, and then we moved to Washington State, where they tried to get together, and it didn't work, and we were there for 6 months, just enough time to like make friends. And then
okay, so like stress and instability. Okay.
And I remember I always had sort of ding dong wrappers, underneath my pillow when I would get up the next morning. My mom was big with sugar.
Really?
There was always a pan. I mean, she
out
didn't
of like
push
guilt,
it.
like she felt bad for putting you through it. So at least reward with the snack, this treat. Yeah. A lot of people do that.
I think so.
It's common.
Yeah.
And you can hardly blame parents, right? They feel bad about everything else. So
this has come up before about not using food as a reward or as a punishment, taking food away as a punishment.
Yes. It should rarely ever be linked with any sort of behavior. So it shouldn't be, I took you for ice cream, so why are you now misbehaving? Those two should never be related. The kid was never under the impression that when they went for ice cream, that promised good behavior later in the afternoon. Or, yay, you were so brave when we got your cavities filled. Let's treat you with treats.
With
or, yay, you got A's. Kids should intrinsically study hard or do well or have decent behavior.
Right.
And associating it with food, especially junk food, sugar, snacks, just leads them to a lifetime of, I got a promotion. I'll go out for Sundays. It's just a bad habit to form. So thinking in advance of a pat on the back or it depends what it is. They got A's or good grades. Good. We expect that of you. And again, I'm not the parenting expert, but just not to make it about food. However, I do agree there should be some celebratory aspect of life. Like, it's your birthday, celebrate, have a great meal, have dessert, have cake. At birthday parties, I don't even look or care at what my kids are eating at all. They should just enjoy, have fun, have a normal relationship with celebratory foods. But as the carrot at the end of the stick for behavior or promises or bribes, we should really avoid that and think in advance of what else we can do. So next time you want to fall back on that, you'll have a tool readily available.
I think a lot of people do that. I know we do. We're like, hey, you did good. Let's go to Yogurtland. Or
Menchie's.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes. I know.
I agree. I think where you were going that eating together is celebratory.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, eating can be a celebratory point, but maybe not like junk food as a direct reward for behavior.
Right. My daughter scored a soccer goal recently. And instead of saying like, yay, you wanted to play soccer, right? It was her idea. You then got a goal, which is an expected part of playing soccer. Yay, good for you. But it was like, no, let's go to Menchie's. So yeah, we're guilty of it too. But
so your child scored
that was my
goal
husband's idea.
in soccer. Can you tell me what that's like?
It was the first ever. I have little experience, but yes.
Oh man,
I hear you.
I've done the reward thing myself. If you get something, you know what? Hey, I got a promotion, or I got this job, or this thing happened, and I'm happy, and then I'll go out and I'll have. Treat myself. And then I also use it on the other end too. Like I've had a horrible day, I'm going to go treat myself.
Yes.
And it's like, it's just, you find any excuse to go have that thing.
Yeah.
We all need alternates to celebrating or lamenting.
Yeah.
Like, okay, man, today was awful. What can I do? I mean, ideally, we should all go for a 30-minute brisk walk. But, whether or not if you have a dog, that's great. But at least maybe I'll listen to my favorite podcast or carve out a little time.
Right.
I'll read that magazine I've been wanting to get to, or I'll take a bath. Or, I don't know. One thing I'm kind of on the fence about, or I think is kind of okay, if you actually made something from scratch. Like, say you involved your kids in the baking or the cooking, you did it yourself.
Sure.
If it's because anything you bake at home will always be healthier than what you're going to buy or get out at a restaurant.
Right.
So if that was part of like, yay, I'm so proud of you. Let's make something together. Let's make chocolate chip cookies. And then you have a few. That's lovely. Why not incorporate that part? And that's a good memory, right? You grow up, mom, dad, you bake cookies or whatever it is. So food can't always, it can sometimes be associated with the reward.
And I feel like for so many people, myself included, that there are so many emotions tied up in food.
Oh, yeah.
And it's hard to tease the two out and separate them. And like, why is it so celebratory to eat a bunch of sugar? Like, why is that? Like,
it's our culture.
Birthday cakes or just treats or dessert. Like my wife calls me Mr. Dessert.
Yes.
Like when we're out at dinner and the server come by and said, "Would you like to see a dessert menu?" And I'm like, "Is the Pope Catholic?" Yes, I would like to see a dessert menu.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, have you ever kind of gotten into the psychology of the combination of the two?
There's two things. First, don't underestimate the power of our culture and the food industry. Every ad, every commercial, every magazine ad, just everywhere you look, everything you hear is, you've been good. Treat yourself with this.
Wow.
You deserve this.
Yeah.
Your families deserve this.
A break
Your
today.
Yes, it's everywhere. And it's been for decades. The marketing to us is so hard, first to identify. And then it's, as with all things in parenting, this is my second point, is the awareness. Being aware of it while you're doing it, being aware of what the marketing is telling you, our habits. Anything you want to change with parenting, it's just slowing down to be like, wow, okay, why am I doing this? What can I do differently? So just being aware of it is a huge part of it.
Children's TV is dangerous.
It's awful.
Because the commercials in there are just geared towards kids.
Yeah.
Like, look at this. They make it all, it's all colorful and it's all subsidized. So it's very cheap.
Yes.
We, as far as dessert in our family, like I keep saying I say probably twice a week that I don't think that dessert should be an every night thing.
No.
And I tell him that. He's like, "Can I have dessert tonight?" And I'm like, "Buddy, I don't think dessert's an every night thing. Like, you want some fruit, you can have some fruit." I have such a fear of sugar.
Yes.
And I gave him, he had like a sip of Coca-Cola, like straight up Coke one point. And you could see his eyes just shot open. He was like, "What is this?"
Of course.
But here's the thing that I think gets to the foundation of all of this. Is like, what what do you believe nowadays? Like, everybody has a point of view. Everybody has a book. Everybody's selling something. I just made a quick list I'm going to try to buzz through really quickly. The low-fat, high-carb American Association backed diet, like of the 80s and 90s. Then there was Atkins, which is controlling insulin through low carb. Then there's the ketogenic diet, which is switching the body over to burning fat for fuel. The paleo diet, which is what our ancestors ate, which is meat, fish, vegetables, no grains, no sugar, no legumes. The zone, 40% carbs, 30% fat, 30% protein. Vegan, I was vegan once. I've done all of these, by the way. Vegetarian, I was that. I tried to be raw vegan for a little while. That's very hard.
Tough, yeah.
The starch solution. Now, I have diabetes. The starch solution by Dr. John McDougall says that just eat starches. Like, that is a diabetic's nightmare. Like, I'm going to eat boiled potatoes? Like the glycemic index on boiled potatoes is ridiculous.
Right.
Then he got the plant paradox, which I know you're going to talk about, by Dr. Stephen Gundry, is the danger of plant protein leptin. Weight Watchers is a whole
lectins. It's like a fiber or something. Yeah.
And the South Beach diet, which is, again, controlling insulin through the benefits of unrefined slow carbs, and the Mediterranean diet, eat for your blood type. I did Susan Powter's Stop the Insanity. You guys are probably all too young to remember this, but this was back in the late
What was her thing? I remember Stop the Insanity, but what was her angle?
I don't remember,
No? Okay.
but I just remember that I was insane and I wanted to stop it. And she had an infomercial, and I thought if I bought it, it would help.
Oh, that's funny.
None of it works. But I don't know. But the thing is like...
You left out the best one, the DASH diet.
What's
the
the DASH?
number one, the dietary approaches to stop hypertension. It's free. That's one of the best parts of it is it's not, no one's making money off it. You can download meal plans off the internet for free. So the dietary approaches to stop hypertension. So many Americans are struggling with high blood pressure or are dangerously close to high blood pressure. And it's a very high fruit, vegetable, high potassium diet, low sodium diet that's just kind of normal. There's no big catch. It's just a healthy diet with enough calories that's very reasonable. I think anyone could follow it.
Where does it stand on protein?
It's like a moderate. It's not a high protein diet. It's not really a low protein diet.
Where does it stand on fat?
Lowish, but again, 30%. Okay. So not unreasonably, like any normal person could follow it.
Okay.
But it's not a high fat and definitely no refined carbs.
Right.
It's absolutely ideal for anyone with diabetes. And it's a ton of fruits and vegetables, which is all the research time after time keep pointing to just eat more vegetables.
Okay, but the question I have as being diabetic, I have to be careful of fruit.
Right. So you would eat more vegetables, less fruit. You can have some fruit, but it wouldn't be a high fruit diet by any means. But definitely some, because there's such minerals, nutrients, fibers that are in fruits. And we're talking like the apples I get are tiny. They're they're not these huge, massive envy apples from Gelson's. They're little. You could have a little cutie. But sometimes bananas are small. So sometimes fruit doesn't always have to be a huge sugar bomb.
Yeah. And I've also heard that a glass of orange juice is as bad as a Coke.
No juice. No juice.
Because
for anyone, ever.
It's stripped. And for kids, no juice.
No juice, ever, for anyone. No one should be drinking juice.
It's stripped all of the fiber out of it, all the good stuff, right?
If you press your own juice, here's what it is. It's concentrated. So if you make your own juice, you realize it takes like 5 oranges to get a decent cup.
Right.
Would you sit down and eat 5 oranges at once? No, you would feel awful. So that's a problem with juice. When you press it yourself, you see most of the pulp is still in there.
Right.
Commercial juices, no. A lot of it's been strained out. So even if there is the fiber, it's just the sheer quantity of juice. So it's not, I want to go on the record saying it's not worse than a Capri Sun or a soda or chocolate milk, but it is as equally bad.
I see kids just pounding juice, and I see kids at the playgrounds drinking full-on Mountain Dews and Sprite
Capri
and Coca-Cola.
Suns, yes.
And I gotta say, I'm proud that Olin, when we go to a restaurant, he pretty much orders water. And he's been down with that for years. Every once in a while, we'll give him a little something, but for the most part, it's always water.
And that's where I think parents need to make the biggest stance and be the strongest. The best favor you can do for your kid is to get them in the habit of drinking water. Water every meal, water at restaurants. It really bugs me that when you go and get a kid's meal, if your kid is still young enough to order those, they say out loud, the server will say, would they like chocolate milk, apple juice, lemonade? And I'm like, no, we will have water in a glass like a normal adult human. We don't need this plastic, all this nonsense. So I think it's a good habit we can model for our kids is we all sit down, everyone has a cup of water. You can make it in a nice pitcher, make it pretty, put in a slice of lemon, do whatever. But 90% of the time, that's what we drink. We drink water with meals. And so if it is a birthday party and there's Capri Suns or a field trip or some social occasion, fine. Have that sugar sweetened drink, but it should be a very rare habit. And also to keep in mind how often kids nowadays are eating out at restaurants. So if you say, oh no, at home we always have water. But when they go out, they get the lemonade, the High C, the Gatorade, Powerade, whatever.
Vitamin water.
They end up getting a lot of sugar sweetened beverages, much more. And it should be absolutely less than 1 a week. So just think about it. Be aware of that. And that's, I think, one of the best habits we could raise our next generation with is just drinking water.
I hadn't thought about the concentrated nature of fruit juice that you buy over the counter.
Unless you make it yourself, you don't really get how much it takes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, which means there's a lot of vitamin C too, but...
Can we start a movement to get rid of the kids menu?
Yes,
fucking hate the kids menu.
It's the worst.
It's all
food.
nuggets and mac cheese. Yeah. It's all that stuff, that highly processed shit.
It should insult our intelligence, shouldn't it? But a lot of us, we sometimes intercept the kids menu at a restaurant and just try. Now that my kids are older, 7 and 10, and just say, no, we'll get order off the adult menu, real food. That maybe, because like, let's use a chain Chinese restaurant. The fried rice on the kids menu is chicken and white rice with soy sauce to make it look brown. The adult one at least has some vegetables. So here's the restaurant industry saying the growing humans don't get the only healthy part of this dish. It just makes no sense.
And my goodness,
you should hear me at restaurants. Yeah, I have such a bone to pick with kids' menus.
We were just in France, and in 8 or 9 days of eating out at restaurants, every meal we encountered one restaurant that had a kids meal. So yeah, it's just not a thing.
No,
at most
they
places.
Raise their children to sit at the table, eat what the adults are eating, to be interested in food, not have issues with food, take pride in the food, help prepare food. These are all things we should be doing.
So I have a kid who is a grilled cheese and a butter pasta kid. Help me.
I hear you. I have one of those as well, which has been very humbling as a mother who's a dietitian.
Sure.
Because my first child eats everything, so I was patting myself on the back saying, oh, I've done everything right. And then the second kid comes along, I was like, oh, I had nothing to do with this. This was just... So I've tried everything. So I've tried gardening, like, oh, let's plant a zucchini seed and watch it grow. That was not successful, but I don't regret gardening because I enjoy it. Taking a kid to a farmer's market. It's a huge table of beautiful produce. Pick anything. Or the farmers will let you try a sugar snap pea. That did not work. My daughter just shook her head. I was like, I have nothing to do with this. Helping to engage a kid, help you prepare food. So let's help me make dinner, and you will see that the lettuce will not burn your skin as you might fear. So that has kind of helped. So I'm just going to give you all these tips that just and don't give up. So that's another thing is it will take so many attempts, as you know, of introducing. And also, you can't really have a strong agenda. I think kids can see our agendas a mile away. Smart. And also, they can see our reticence like, we don't have dessert tonight. They can hear in our voice when we're like, should we have dessert tonight? I'm kind of hungry. So it has to be just said without emotion, we're not doing dessert tonight. No. Just like we're also not going to watch a movie tonight. It's not going to happen. It's no big deal. It's neither good nor bad. I'm the adult in the house. I get to decide. It's not going to happen. Move on. Change the subject. So with getting to eat more vegetables, we start every meal with a vegetable. So that's when the kid's hungriest and most vulnerable to desperation.
Oh, that's
so
smart.
Whether I cut up, and you have to make it kind of palatable. So it requires a little bit of work on our part, but we all want to get there. So this is work. So I'll get rainbow carrots or any kind of carrot. Don't peel them. It's crazy to peel carrots. Just scrub them good, get all the dirt off, and then just cut them up into nice little sticks, and I display it on a pretty cutting board. And I'll also put out celery or sugar snap peas with the little stems cut off. We start with a salad. The first plate, they sit down. It's lettuce we grew, but not all the year. When it is, though, I'm like, hey, come help me pick lettuce. Or, hey, did you know it's Valentine's Day? We have red lettuce. I get a kick out of it. They don't, but I try. And then they get to pick their salad dressing. I was making French-style shallot, vinegar, mustard dressings. They hated it. That was why they weren't eating salads. Oh. We found this Kewpie. I don't know if I can promote a product. I have nothing to do with this, but it's a Kewpie, like roasted sesame dressing at Gelson's. My kids could drink it by the gallon.
Really?
They will eat anything that is poured on, and it's reasonably healthy. Who cares?
Have you ever had that like poppy seed dressing? It's like it's a little sugary. I mean,
it's
probably
a
lot
sweet,
sugary,
right?
But he'll put that on a salad and he'll devour a
Who
salad.
Who cares then? They can put on ranch dressing. I really don't. Let's not get hung up on the minor details, because let's be honest, a tablespoon of ranch is probably not going to do them in, you know, as long as they're eating salad. So I put the portion out enough so I feel good about it, but not so much that they're just discouraged before they even sit down. And we all start with a salad and a cup of water. Then, boom, let's move on. Next, and I call it next course. I don't ever say like, you have to start with the vegetables. Because if you make it sound like a bad thing, they're going to pick up on this. I'm like,
okay,
here's our
once
first
you get
course.
through this, we'll get to the real food.
Yeah, exactly. They can sense that. So, and they, always right before dinner, we're so hungry. Okay, well, I've said all carrots, so knock yourself out. Sometimes fruit works. Some kids will eat so much fruit they won't eat dinner, but with my kids, I can put out fruit before and it doesn't ruin the appetite. So that's another tip. I don't believe in the hiding the vegetables. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, the whole Jessica Seinfeld because it doesn't get them to learn to like vegetables. We're changing their relationship. They're clearly scared. So to try and just have them try one of everything. And if they don't eat more than that, hey, bud, you tried it. Bravo. Is it a girl or boy?
Boy.
A boy. So, all right, buddy, good job. You tried it. Let's keep eating. Don't get so hung up on it, but keep introducing a variety. So it's scary how little variety is in our diet.
Yeah.
I signed up for a CSA box, which at our school, it's part of like a fundraiser. They get a fruit veggie box, organic from local farms, delivered every Monday. We unpack them like, all right, kids, we got baby bok choy this week. They hated it, but they tried it. Just, they'll eventually come up with something like, we got romesco. Are you familiar? It's like that cauliflower that has those cool pyramids. It's like a Fibonacci sequence. So my math kid, I was like, hey, Fibonacci sequence on the romesco tonight. Check it out. Look it up.
Is it the one that looks like a fractal?
Yes, exactly. It's beautiful.
One of those like trippy posters from college.
Right. And so, yes, with a spiral. So we just try to make it somewhat interesting, but don't give up. I think the number one thing I could say is don't underestimate what a role model we are for our kids.
Sure.
If they see us joyfully, gladly eating vegetables, because that's what we do, they might not do it now, but they will do it eventually.
Yeah.
They want to copy us, even though we don't always feel that way. And then also, don't ever give up. Keep trying. Every meal, a book I read and I enjoyed, because I like the title called, It's Not About the Broccoli. It's not just about you put broccoli at dinner and they don't eat that and then you're gravely discouraged because my kid doesn't eat vegetables. If at breakfast they have a smoothie that has real fruit in it, and at lunch there's lettuce in the salad or some carrots and hummus on the side or sugar snap peas. I'm just talking about what's in season now. I should talk about kale, all the other vegetables, but it's just what I got this week. Then there's not so much pressure on the dinner to be this ultimate vegan vegetable feast. So sprinkle it throughout every day. Don't give up. And in time, you'll see those you'll see like, oh my gosh, we're eating salads now. Or broccoli. Yay. Also, it's how they're prepared. My kids hated Brussels sprouts till I roasted them. And then they gobble them up. Okay, good. We roast Brussels sprouts. Fine.
Nice. And I think not giving up is key, because I think sometimes we know, they're not going to eat anything else,
don't eat
so
this.
I'm automatically going to get them the chicken nuggets.
Right.
Because that's all they're going to eat.
Right.
But then you're just perpetuating that same behavior, right? You're just, you've given up. You're
my
like,
pediatrician says, predict success. And I didn't eat a tomato till I was an adult. I thought they were the most disgusting things. Now I grow them and love them. So I'd say even on myself, I never gave up. So just keep offering it, keep enjoying it, keep it light, lose the real hardcore agenda, lose the guilt, lose the, if you eat this, I'll reward you with this. It's dinner. It's food. It's what we do. And as much as you can prepare them or involving them with the preparation of meals, I think goes a long way too.
So, these are all very motivational. We've tried a few of them. We do like one of the meal delivery. One of the meal delivery. I did
like
it
Blue
twice.
Apron or one of the,
one of the meal delivery plans. That was close. I almost said delivery. And we've gotten the kids involved in cooking it, and it's funny. He'll be like, "Nope," and we're like, "But Owen, you made it. Remember it?" He's like, "Yeah, that's okay. I made it. But I don't want to eat it."
Yeah, that'll happen.
Oh, he's a tough one.
I had a friend who just said, just don't feed them. They'll get hungry enough while they're eat. But that seems cruel.
Also, if you can think, are there any, like, build off some success? Are there any vegetables he eats? Like any. Think like a
Can you saute carrots?
Yeah,
like in
you
a
can
little
cook
bit,
them.
A little bit of butter in a pan.
And again, no need to restrict too much fat with the kids. So yeah, make them palatable, make them enjoyable. Is there anything? Because like to get any measure of success, like even if they eat a spanakopita or a spinach tortellini, there's greens in there and they're aware of it.
Yeah. Spinach tortellini.
Yeah.
That Trader Joe's one.
Yes, that's what my daughter eats, and she will eat nothing.
And then sometimes he's like, wait, what? Because like he'll see one that's cut in half and it's green. And what's in that?
And I would say I was very hesitant. I used to make smoothies when my daughter was out of the room because I was so afraid if she saw I put fruit in here, she would not eat it. She is so aware. She's like, she would watch me. You're having blueberries, but she won't touch my hand if I touch a blueberry. But she'll drink it in a smoothie. So they're not always logical. So I'd say, you had your vegetable tonight. You ate it in the spinach tortellini. Name it. Give him the pride of, I did this. Like, great. Let's see what you want to try next.
If he knows that, he just won't eat it.
I know, but he likes it. So let him get through that mental roadblock of I don't, because it's a mental roadblock, clearly.
Yeah.
So he's thinking, I don't do vegetables. So give him that successive,
like,
you
no,
do. You did.
Yeah, you do,
and it was
actually.
delicious, right?
Let me ask you this.
That's a great angle.
I've heard.
Because you're not hiding it.
Don't hide it.
A lot of kids do eat, they'll eat bread or pasta or just a lot of carbs. And I've heard it said that, oh, don't worry because they burn a lot more carbs. So it's okay if they eat a lot more carbs. Is that true in your experience?
They do burn a lot of energy. So kids just burn energy, and calories are calories no matter where it comes from. And I think my kids hate whole grains. Like, just, they hate it. But we treat white refined carbs as special. So I don't think they should be given unlimited. Like, no, not like a cornflake white flour cereal in the morning and then white bread for lunch and then a burrito with a white flour tortilla for lunch. That's all white. Right. We should not be eating those, and they shouldn't. However, one per day could be. Let's meet in the middle, you know?
So do you have any ideas like why some kids, most kids, a lot of kids are so afraid of, they're so drawn to simple carbs and afraid of leafy things or colorful things or even protein. A lot of kids are afraid of proteins. They're afraid of meat.
Don't eat meat, right.
It's why so is it like, I always think it must be something evolutionary.
I think it's like a brain chemistry thing. I think there's actually a few things. I did hear about recent research, which when you eat the refined carbohydrates, and I want to say it increases like serotonin levels. Okay. And so it floods their brain and it makes them feel good. And let's be honest, who doesn't love like French bread? You guys were in Paris. It's absolutely delicious. I think they're just so simplistic. I would probably eat French bread all day long as well if I didn't know, no, I have to have kale and that's going to make me really unhealthy. But they don't have that knowledge of nutrition, nor should they. I'm very against overloading children with nutrition. It's not appropriate. Don't give them that burden at such a young age. Right. We provide and shop and prepare the food.
Just lead
That's
by example,
our job.
Right?
Lead by model good behavior. So I think there is something in the brain chemistry with those white refined carbs. Also in the mouth, you have like amylase that starts digesting carbohydrates right in your mouth. So they start tasting sweet. We forget how sweet pasta is because we're not. But if you really have white pasta that's plain and eat it, there's a sweetness to it. So the kids just have very simple receptors like that. And you have to develop a palate that likes bitter green tea, bitter chard, and kale. They're actually, so many vegetables are bitter. Yeah. And you have to kind of learn to appreciate it, especially if you have sensitive taste buds. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of reasons why kids default to that. It doesn't scare them. It's bland. It's slightly sweet. Doesn't challenge themselves. So I think the younger you can start, obviously introduce them to more bitter flavors. Oh, you could do like a flavor tasting game. Like, okay, let's taste how this is sweet. Let's taste how this is bitter. And not good or bad. Just, hey, let's do science at home. Yeah. You could try that, but just don't give up. Keep going. Okay. Yeah, I know. It's hard.
I just know that with my younger one, I know there's an emotional aspect like to this. When he was like 2, 3, 4, at dinner time, he would see us start cooking and start setting the table and getting ready for dinner. And I kid you not, he would disappear. Yeah. He would go to the other end of the house and hide because he knew it was dinner time. And we'd be like, Owen, where are you? It's time to eat. And he'd be like, no, I'm not coming. So I know there is...
From a very young age. Was this a colicky baby by any chance?
He was.
Yeah.
He had,
I think there's a lot...
like a 6-week period of just nonstop screaming.
Same here with my child. And I think, I don't know, I'm speaking way ahead. I think the research will hopefully come out in our lifetime, but I really believe it's like some microbiome thing. It is like, they call our gut our second brain. And I think there is something, and, it's responsible for hormone production and, just all these chemical levels that go to our real brain. So I think there might be something, and maybe there is now, and I'm just not aware of it, colicky babies and their severe food restrictions, preferences that go through life, and maybe the serotonin they get from the refined carbs and real food aversions, because I have the same thing, and it boggles my mind despite every attempt otherwise. So I would say maybe that part's out of our hand, but slowly trying to add more fiber to their diet because the fiber will improve their microbiome. And over time, maybe you can actually change that. Right.
Interesting.
But that's a speculation on my part.
Do you think this is a uniquely American issue?
That's fascinating. On one hand, it has to be. Does a child on the savannah have the luxury of eating pasta? It's not even there.
Right.
They have to eat for survival.
I mean, kids in Japan and China are eating rice and fish and
weird, stinky,
weird
smelling.
stuff.
But the colicky babies in other countries, what are they doing?
I don't know.
Would love to know. It has to be, maybe to some degree, but maybe it's an American microbiome thing, that maybe we have so many antibiotics in this country that we've kind of wiped out the microbiome in a lot of our species. So now we have more kids with colic that just have this. I don't know. But I think also, have you ever sent your child to bed hungry thinking like, oh, well, starving kids will eventually eat? It doesn't work. My daughter held me out and I was like, well, I'm not going to ever get skinny on me. So I don't know. I think it's just they know food's around the corner. We have such a surplus of food.
So the microbiome thing is a good segue into this plant paradox, which I just finished the book a week or two ago. Right. And I don't read diet books or very many self-help books, but I swear to God, this was a page turner for me. I could not put the book down.
I heard it was very readable.
And what grabbed me about it was that it was very scientific. Okay. He's a medical doctor, a heart surgeon, and he spent the first at least half, almost 2/3 of the book just talking about our microbiome and went through 7 factors in the American diet that had contributed to just decimating our biome.
Yes.
And so, and then he got to his whole thing at the end with the lectins, which is, that's kind of his angle. And obviously that's not everybody's angle. But to me, the setup was it made so much sense to me. And I saw some of the issues that I have with my body I was like, well, that makes sense if perhaps I'm having these issues. So I'm trying it right now. It's difficult.
Yeah.
And, like I said, I really liked the book, so I'm going to give it a shot. I'm not 100% fully bought in on this whole lectin thing, but I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens. But one thing that just shot out to me when we were talking about colicky babies was he said that the mother's microbiome is the baby's is kickstarted when he is born, when he goes through the birth canal. And he said that babies delivered by C-section don't get it right off, and it takes a while for it to kind of
They're actually
be launched.
colonized by Staphylococcus, which I believe it's not staph, which is from the nurses and doctors' hands.
Oh,
that's
wow.
their first colonization because that's how they were delivered. Whereas it's a totally different bacteria if you deliver a baby vaginally. So it's a totally different colonization.
So I should say that both of our kids were delivered vaginally. So that's
good.
Obviously not the cause of his colic.
No, as was mine.
But America has a very high percentage of C-sections, right?
Olin was a C-section and eats everything. So that's,
I don't know.
Exactly. It's hard
doesn't necessarily.
It's hard to always pin down. And I think, so I haven't read that book that you've read, but I read a lot about it. And I think as with any diet book, especially all the diets you listed Baker earlier, there's always a grain of truth. There's something there to work from. The premises you could trace back to some scientific reasoning. Now, a lot of problem is where the doctor continues to write and flesh out those thoughts. If you look back at the original research articles they came from, they could have been grossly misinterpreted. And so many diet books do that.
Cherry pick what they want to support.
And unless you're trained on how to read research articles, which is not easy, you just have no choice but to believe the author. And so, for example, the whole low-fat diet versus low-carb diet. There's evidence, both. There's been so many studies on those recently. But what a lot of the headlines fail to say is, well, the low fat or the low carb diet, over 50% of the research subjects dropped out because it was absolutely unpalatable and couldn't finish it.
Right.
But they just say the end results. So that's why that book would require a lot of research there is a huge microbiome angle to our health, and it's massive. But I would trust, if you want to read about the microbiome, I would read The Good Gut by Justin Sonnenberg and Erica Sonnenberg, who are leading the microbiome research lab at Stanford University. Yeah. Their book is amazing. It has great recipes. It's well written. It's very scientifically rigorous. I would get my info from them, not a cardiologist that's selling me pills.
Mm-hmm. And that's the next frontier, right? The gut biome.
It's everything. Yes.
We've sort of discarded that for so many years. And now people are really saying, like you said, it's a second brain.
Yeah.
And it plays such an important part in our health that I think people have forgotten. And certain foods just wipe that out. And all the antibiotics that we take now wipe that out. I took Cipro once for something. And Cipro is like napalm. It's a nuclear bomb. Just gets rid of everything in your body.
And I read it takes over 8 years to rebuild the microbiome to before. So think of if you've had antibiotics. 8 years for what? Of like a high fiber diet, you can't get your gut flora back to the point it was before you had those one course of antibiotics.
Really? And is that any antibiotic?
So you do like a Z-Pack, 5 days. You've now knocked out. So it knocks out the good, it knocks out the bad. And it's non-discriminatory. And thank God for antibiotics. Right. We need it. I avoid them as much as possible. The last time I took them, I was pregnant with my daughter that was colicky. And then I had the colicky baby. So I don't know. That's a very small sample study too on my behalf. But.
And then because of all of our factory farms, most of our meat is shot up with antibiotics because it has to in order to be...
Which we got to stop. They're really trying, but the farmers are under such pressure for high yields, high meat that... Yeah. There's so many are given antibiotics. So because it's a factory farm setting, they're all sick. These poor little animals all squished together. It's awful. So the number one thing you could do if you're worried about your microbiome, so I would, if you're a reader, read The Good Gut. I thought it was fascinating. There's a lot of other good books on it, is eat fiber. That's a number one, which guess what correlates with the number one other diet recommendation, which is eat more vegetables.
Right. And so fermented foods too,
Fermented foods. And it's not taking probiotics. And if I may say why that is, so we have thousands of strains of different bacteria in our body, in our ears, nose, everywhere. In our skin, there's so many different varieties. And you go to a store, you buy a bottle of probiotics, there's maybe 4 strains. If you're lucky, a bottle of kefir has 12. So it's like you're loading, say you have a lake,
right,
and you're just seeding it with trout. It's okay. So you have a ton of trout in a lake, yay, but then you have to also feed them. So probiotics, the reason I don't recommend, because no one researching the microbiome is recommending probiotics at this point, is it's such a limited number of strains. Who knows if those are the good strains? It's best to get a variety. So kefir has 12. Okay, fine. If you like dairy, drink kefir. 12 strains is not bad. I brew my own kombucha. Who knows what's in that, but it's fun to drink. And I'm probably getting at least some strains.
Nice.
But the best thing you can do is assume you have a pretty good flora in there. Feed it a ton of fiber to grow the good bugs. You have a farm growing in your stomach. Feed it fiber.
I was going to say the way that Dr. Gundry said it is like take a handful of seeds.
Yeah.
And then just like throw them out onto the street.
Exactly.
Like, nothing's going to happen.
Nothing's going to grow. That's exactly, unless you have the environment. So I agree with him there. Yeah. And I'm probably on the other microbiome stuff. Again, I'm not a microbiome researcher. I only know from what I've read from like the American Gut Project. There's a lot of good resources out there. So if you you think you don't have a good flora now, which could very well be the case.
Right. If I've had antibiotics 4 times in the last, 3 years, then...
Right. So try some fermented foods. Do you like kimchi? Do you like sauerkraut? Do you like yogurt? Do you like kefir? Do you like kombucha? Try that. But really, it's also... If you were to buy like homegrown produce or grow it yourself or buy farmer's market produce, don't wash it. There's got to be a good, we call it nature's blanket that's surrounding that food. Why would you wash it? Wash anything from a grocery store, no doubt.
Because we get a lot from the dirt,
it's
right?
From the
soil.
Dirt. Yeah.
As long as it's organic, right? As long as it's not.
Well, that's why I say farmer's market or your own. It has to be organic. If there's any sprays, you don't want anything to do with that. Open your windows. That gets in fresh air that has, swimming in a lake. Could have other problems, but that increases your microbiome. Getting in your fingers into dirt, so working with the dirt, and then eating a ton of fiber. You have to have some good bugs in your body. Feed them, grow them, and they'll outcompete the bad ones. And you'll slowly, over time, hopefully, be able to change that balance in your favor. And allegedly, that should have a lot of health benefits for all of us. So
yeah, he mentioned that there's a neural connection between your stomach and your brain.
Absolutely.
That I think I'm paraphrasing and probably getting it wrong, but I think he said that the amount of nerves between the stomach and the brain is more than any other connection in the body.
Yes. And why is the gut so innervated by the brain? Clearly there's communication there. Yeah. And as you know, you get nervous, your brain's nervous, but you feel in your stomach. It's absolutely, we've all had experiences with this. So it's definitely a connection.
I was going to say that goes all the way back to Hippocrates, right?
Let food be thy medicine.
Well, he talked about the gut. He said that all disease comes from the gut.
Right. He was an early microbiome researcher.
He was ahead of his time.
Now, this is my thing with that lectin thing, though. All the foods in lectin are really good sources of fiber. They're great sources of plant protein. I mean, those are some of the most valuable foods in our diet. So to read all about the microbiome and then have this end of the summary of the book recommendations, but avoid all these foods that have been shown to improve the microbiome just because they have a lectin. And there's not a ton of research there that says the lectin's the cause of all of our problems. And any diet book that finds one boogeyman that says one thing, whether it's sugar, whether it's saturated fat, whether it's any one thing that is the problem, the source of all of our ills, be very wary of. So that's my issue with that book. How did those two jive?
Yeah, I mean, and what I really took away from it is the whole gut thing.
Absolutely.
And I'm running with it.
Good.
And then I think I've said this to you before, Baker, is with all those fad diets, is that they all, if you do them, I feel like they all work to a degree because what you're doing is you're thinking critically about everything you put in your body. And if you think critically about all the food you put in your body, you're going to make better decisions no matter what diet you're going
I don't hold all of these things at fault. I hold the fact that I haven't been able to follow any of them. And that's more me than...
Because all the meal plans in those books are always like a 1,500 calorie diet. So you're all excited, you read the book, you're motivated, yay. So for like 2-3 days, you can follow that. And then it's not realistic. So you fall off. So it worked if you follow it, but it's working because it's low calorie.
Right.
I was eating, I was paleo for a while, for a very long time, and I lost a lot of weight.
Oh.
And I feel like I was eating 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day. I was eating a ton of food.
Yeah. That's an expensive diet to eat. It's so high organic grass-fed protein to get 3,000 calories from that. That's an expensive diet.
And I would eat like a whole chicken. And
oh my gosh.
And I lost a ton of weight. So how do you feel about a calorie is a calorie in, calorie out? Because
that's how I was. Yes, I was educated. So when I had all my nutrition formal education at universities, it was calorie, also calorie in and a calorie out. So as long as you burn your 3,500 calories, which is a pound of fat, the math's not shaken out that way. It's no longer so simple because new research has come out. So for example, back to the microbiome, we have all the bacteria in our colon, the undigestible fibers. So the fibers that are pretty painful to eat, we can't break them down. Like my own cells cannot break it down to get energy from them, but the bacteria can. So that actually adds to our calorie diet is our bacteria are digesting and adding calories. So, but what they do then is they produce short chain fatty acids, which are anti-inflammatory. So that's another benefit of the high fiber diet. So it's no longer quite so simplistic. I don't think anything with nutrition is. And I hear so many people that get so discouraged, like, what can I believe? Nutrition changes all the time. I'd say the basic tenets of eat unprocessed food, don't eat so much, are time tested. But the paleo diet, I have quite a few issues with as well. Just it was such a the Paleolithic time frame was 15,000 years. We don't really know what our human ancestors were eating for that long of time. And I feel like it's just an excuse to have coconut oil and butter in your coffee and eat a bunch of expensive, the bulletproof coffee.
I did the bulletproof coffee. I got to tell you, here's my experience with that.
Yes.
I would have 2 tablespoons of grass-fed, Kerrygold grass-fed butter, and a tablespoon of MCT oil sold by some guy.
Yeah.
And I would put it in my coffee, and I would drink it in the morning, and at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I would be like, oh, maybe I should get some lunch.
That's great.
I was not hungry.
Well, there you go.
I felt great. I lost a ton of weight, and then I would eat
Then you'd eat a whole chicken.
That's where
that was usually for dinner, but
and I'm all for that. But then your dinner, there's a lot of pressure on your dinner to get all your nutrients and vitamins and fiber because you skipped 2 meals.
But then my triglycerides got up to 900.
Oh my gosh!
Right,
which is often ridiculous. From eating carbohydrates, not from fat. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and so I don't know. My blood work is all off the work. But going back to a calorie is a calorie,
right?
And there are 2 schools of thought. Some people say just you have to, whatever you take in, you have to burn off. And I think that there's science to support that. The first law of thermodynamics does not really apply totally in this case.
Right, because human metabolism is so complicated.
Right, and it's a hormonal thing also.
Correct.
There's a lot that has to do with insulin, and we've talked about this before. We had a We had a listener, Dr. Roscom up in Seattle, sent me some information on a guy named Dr. Robert Lustig, who's talking
out of San Francisco, UCSF?
Right. So, he's a pediatric endocrinologist, correct. And he really talks about how sugar is, and especially the fructose in sugar, because sugar is glucose and fructose. Correct. And glucose is the energy of life. All cells burn it, right?
Yeah. Brain uses it. Yeah.
But the fructose, that's the...
Yes, it is naturally occurring in some fruits, but also has been in high amounts, has been limited to or linked to more insulin resistance.
Yes. And he says that sugar, that the fructose is toxic in high doses.
Absolutely.
And he talks about it in relation to alcohol. It's not calorically.
It's 4 calories per gram. It's not high in calories at all.
And so he's saying that it's on a biochemical level that sugar is dangerous as alcohol is dangerous, because alcohol, when we drink alcohol, we get a little bit of a buzz, which we, that's the part that we celebrate.
Right.
But that the excess in the liver is metabolized into fat, and that liver fat is the primary driver behind chronic metabolic diseases.
It's the NASH, the non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. Yeah, the fatty liver is very prevalent nowadays. It's a big problem.
And kids are now getting fatty liver. And kids
which is shocking. And diabetes. And type 2 diabetes.
Yes. So he says, and this thing that I watched of him in this handout that she sent to me, and I just want to read this because I find it fascinating, and let me know if you agree with it or not. He said the problem with fructose are not only calorically, right, to some extent, but more importantly, biochemically. He said it's very much akin to that of alcohol. And he says it's for these reasons that fructose is toxic, unrelated to calories. He said sugar is the alcohol of the child. He said children are getting the diseases of alcohol without drinking alcohol, that sugar is their alcohol.
I see.
Because of what it does in the liver. It's the same, sugar's the same.
Right.
And I don't know, I just found that, he said that we should call type 2 diabetes what it really is. It's processed food diabetes.
Absolutely.
Right?
No one's getting it from kale. Yeah. That's for sure. At least type 2.
Right? And kids are getting it nowadays.
Yes, I agree with a lot of that. There is a lot of research that the fructose is harmful to the liver. We certainly don't, other than what naturally occurs in fruit, we don't need it in our diet.
Yeah.
No one should be eating the amount of sugar we currently eat at all. So I agree with that. I have read some of Dr. Lustig's work. Gary Taubes, the New York Times author, The Case Against Sugar was his book.
He also has
spells out a lot of that.
How we get fat and why we get fat and what to do about it. I bought like 4 copies of it.
Oh, really?
Because I loved it. And I was going to hand it out to people. It's a great book. But that's a lot of insulin driven, right?
Right. Which is overeating. So a lot of the sugar. But I don't know anyone other than the food industry who's saying we should have sugar. So there's no health professional, even the most conservative of like the American Heart Association, or, that nowadays people want to say, oh, they're old fashioned and are telling us to avoid. So they're not recommending sugar. Now, our government is absolutely, the food guidelines are a joke. And we all know that because it's just food industry lobbying. That's been well established for a long time.
Sure.
So no, I would never want the food pyramid taught in our schools or the dietary guidelines for Americans. I wouldn't ever recommend that as a dietitian to anyone. But I think that a lot of the health organizations or a lot of the physicians or dietitians out there, no one's pro-sugar, except the food industry, which is a formidable foe. They have a lot more access to my kids than even I do. And I'm like, fast forward through the commercials. No, that's the best part. Yeah. So it's hard. But yes, I would say absolutely do everything you can to cut back on sugar. Don't be weird about it. Kids should have some. And it shouldn't be the most special, amazing, like don't treat it like cocaine, because you don't want these kids to then overreact and sneak it and hide it and think it's going to solve all their problems because it must be so amazing. However, we have way too much.
Yeah.
Big cutback.
Yeah, there's a couple things that just kind of discourage me, and you've kind of brought them up. Which one, the way that the food industry is in bed with the government, and it's so difficult to change, the food that's in our schools and the foods that are advertised and produced. But secondly, this was something that my wife and I were talking about when we kind of got into the whole grass-fed versus grain-fed thing and all the antibiotics in meat. And as you mentioned, the pressure to yield enough meat to feed everybody is so crushing. is it even possible to sustain a population as big as ours if all the food is as clean as it needs to be?
No, we absolutely cannot consume the amount of animal protein any popular diet right now, like, any of these paleo could recommend. Where oceans, so many fish are extinct. It's grossly overfished. The fish stocks are just plummeting the ocean. So eat fish 3 times a week for every American.
Oh my
There'd
gosh.
be nothing left.
Yeah.
Farm
fish is like,
there's a lot of PCBs. There's a lot of toxins. I would just say cut back on seafood. It should be a very special, rare thing, which no one wants to hear. But
eat more plant-based foods.
Eat plant-based foods. And then the cows and the pigs and even the chickens and turkeys and all the other animals have some, and the chickens definitely have the least environmental impact as the cows and the pigs, which have much more. You can eat a little, but not daily. No, we just need to get used to eating plant-based meals, which for the kid that doesn't eat any vegetables, then it becomes a refined carb meal. So it's hard. I totally appreciate those challenges.
I'm totally down with that, but I guess to just play devil's advocate, is it even possible to produce enough vegetables in an organic manner to feed the whole country?
Oh, good question. I'd say I'm not qualified to answer that, but I sure hope so. And organic is just a farming method that's a lot more natural. So maybe overpopulation is our biggest problem. But however, the reason so much of our crops right now are the soy and corn that is being shipped to feed cows for McDonald's or is the corn for biodiesel or other things. So if we actually used our fields. America's a huge to feed a variety of vegetables that maybe aren't so sexy or awesome, but we'll just get some nutrition in us, beans, legumes, all these things. Then I think we could. But again, I'm not an agriculture expert. But can I point out one more point? And I think I got this from Michael Pullen, but I'm not sure. About your issues with the food industry and the marketing. It helps that I go into a large grocery store, like a large chain grocery store. I won't pick on Ralph's, but that's the one near my house. And I just go in there and know that most of the products in there are edible, but they're not food.
Yeah.
So I tell my kids about McDonald's. I was like, well, gosh, you could eat it, but we could also eat our wooden table as well. And maybe the table's healthier. So I just have it so deep in my brain.
You could eat a sponge.
You could eat a lot of things. I mean, you could eat that dandelion growing in the front yard, like save me some weeding, but they don't want to. So it helps to have this lens of acknowledging just because the food industry sells it as edible, a box of Yoo-hoo, a can of Coke is technically consumable, but it has no business being in my body and it's not going to help my health at all. So I don't consider it food. So just start approaching restaurants, grocery stores with that mindset of, okay, Doritos are edible, but they have no business being in our bodies.
Right. Have you heard of, I've been a big supporter of these new burgers that are coming out, the Impossible Burger or the Beyond Burger. Have you had those?
The ones that actually like bleed red?
Yeah.
I've read about them. They sound fascinating. I have tried a lot of the vegan burgers. Like it's a nice mix of, there's a beet one that's amazing, a carrot something, and a pea one. So they're all vegetables. It's not the old garden burger where it's a bunch of grains. So it's maybe like a 50-calorie veggie patty. And I'm crazy about those. I love those. Nice. I will see like Gelson's has them or Bristol Farms, and I'm absolutely love those. But I haven't yet tried a Beyond Burger, Impossible Burger, but I want to.
You should.
I would.
And if I would have known, I would have made you one for lunch.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Because I do that sometimes for, I make lunch on my new griddle.
Ooh.
But
what do you like about those? Is it the flavor? Is it pea protein?
I believe it's pea protein.
Yes, and the labs that make those are fascinating.
And so I think Bill Gates got behind one of these products because he had the forethought that we're not going to be able to sustain a population on these mass farms. So we need to get people who want to eat a burger alternative that is a little more globally eco-friendly and not. It's not a burger that's targeting vegetarians or vegans. Right. Because when they eat it, they're like, ew, it tastes like meat.
Right.
It's for people who eat burgers who want to be a little bit more conscious. And I have to tell you, the Impossible Burger, it's when you put like some lettuce and tomato on there and maybe a little bit of onion, you can't tell. It's really great. And they have them now. They had a couple in New York, but now there's, I think, a bunch of restaurants in LA that have them.
Can you buy them at a store?
You can buy the Beyond Burger at a store. And if you just put it on a They grill up pretty well.
Like a grill pan? Could you do it indoors if you didn't want to get...
It's better to do it on a grill pan or some sort of a flat surface because you get that caramelization.
So like a cast iron pan.
Cast
so
iron
you can
pan.
get the high heat. Yes.
High heat on both sides. And if you want it pink, you can have it pink. I like to go a little bit more brown in the middle on this. But they're fantastic. Anyways, it's a great alternative.
No food safety issues like raw meat would have. Yeah. That's fascinating. I'll have to try that.
It's a great alternative. And,
I agree.
And, Olin eats them too. So.
Oh, wow.
I hope that's the future because... I mean, it seems like that's something. Is it actually like grown in a lab or how do they?
It's made. And I read an article. You don't have to grow it in
the ground. Well, I guess
science. It's like what, like
and the beets to make it red. And there's
but that's science at its finest, right? If it's science to save the planet, I'm all for it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
The reason I said organically grown a while ago is because, and this was in the book I read, but Roundup.
You don't like your Roundup?
No, I don't like eating it.
And do you know, I just read
nobody
something 2 days ago, but most foods have traces of it. The only food that didn't was like broccoli. They had to, because they're trying to test how much Roundup is in processed foods. But again, if you back off the processed foods, you'll have a lot less Roundup. Organic for every reason, for the farmer's health, for the people that work on the crops, the farmers, the actual crop workers' health,
soil health,
for our health, for soil health, for the animal and bees and but again, Roundup's like an herbicide, right? So that's killing other weeds, but I'd say all the other pesticides that are killing the wildlife too. Just to go organic for every reason. And if meat's so expensive, especially the grass-fed, so I don't like the argument that we can't afford organic because organic lettuce is maybe 50 cents more a head. I mean, don't pay much, especially at the farmer's market. You get such good prices. So I think it's absolutely economically sustainable and every reason behind it.
Yeah.
To go for it. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, nobody's going to argue that we should be eating Roundup.
Right.
But
no.
Monsanto is so powerful that it's going to be nearly impossible to get the government to get behind it.
We're trying, aren't we, with the GMO labeling? I'd say as soon as we give up all control to Monsanto and say, oh, they're too powerful, then they've won. So I'm like, well, they're powerful now, but not forever. The tide's turning.
They're very powerful
now. They are. They tried to buy the whole dietitian industry, too. They would show up at our national conferences, say, like, we saved papayas from Hawaii because they had to be genetically, all of the papaya crops were crashing, so they genetically modified them, and now it's brought it back. And I was like, yeah, but to what end? Maybe that's nature running its course.
Yes.
Maybe a new papaya would have come out. But yeah, they were showing up. And I was like, you're Monsanto. And you're at all the dietitian conferences? And they want us to give their pens. And I was like, oh, I'm out of here. And I haven't been to one since.
Oh, that's sad. So, and like most of Europe is like no GMO. No. Like everybody's on board with this.
We don't even have labeling requirements for GMOs yet.
And the whole argument, pardon my French, but the whole fucking argument behind we can't label it, bullshit. You can put new reduced fat, new natural flavors.
I voted for labeling.
You can change a label. It does not cost a lot of money. They actually double label stuff right now when they have to send things over to other countries. So you have them.
And our labels are such a joke as it is. Like that. I'm looking at a box of Yoo-Hoo right now that's able to say rich in calcium. Like. That's really? That's what that's promoting. So our labels, what corporations are allowed to put on their labels, is such a joke anyway.
Good source of vitamins and minerals. Chocolate drink. Rich in calcium and vitamin D. I just have to explain why we have this here.
You don't need to for my effect. But.
Olin did a book report thing, and I guess in this book it was called Popeye and Elvis. They made Yoo-Hoo boats. So they cut a box of Yoo-Hoo and they put it in a river and they floated a note down. So we needed to go buy, and you could only buy them in a case. And he's like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Well,
it's not food."
He said, "Can I try?"
There you go. Thank you.
He said, "Can I try it?" I said, "Yeah."
Yeah, why not? Try
it. And he tried it, and he was like, gosh, that's sweet. Water, high fructose corn syrup, and a bunch of other shit that I can't pronounce.
Yeah, it's like an Ensure, right?
Right.
It's
and that's kids are parents are putting that stuff in kids lunches and sending them off to school. And I got to tell you, I have such a hard time with school lunches. Like we are just setting our kids up for failure. Like I've had weight issues my entire life. I don't know, and I'm smart. I don't know why I haven't been able to figure it out because I never commit to any one thing.
Because it's complicated. If it was so easy, it wouldn't be a big problem.
And so I think one of the big factors of why we chose the school that we chose was because of the lunch program there.
Oh, okay.
He came back from school early on, like his first 1 or 2 weeks there. And he's like, today for lunch, we had quinoa.
Oh, wow.
I was like, quinoa? He goes, yeah.
Impressive.
And I was like, awesome. I just didn't, it's so unfortunate, the school lunch program in schools today. And Jamie Oliver, his whole revolution thing, when he had that show, when he would go into schools and everybody pushed back. Everybody in the school pushed back. Everybody in administration pushed back. The parents pushed back. They're like, our kids don't want this. They want the square piece of pizza.
Right.
They want the milkshakes. They want the soda.
Kids eating better than kids not eating? So I know dietitians that worked with like LA Unified School District, and I'm telling you, LA Unified School District is between a rock and a hard place. They have a very small budget, a huge amount of kids to feed, and kids that if they don't get calories in them won't learn as well. And they have all the free reduced meals to provide. So they're in a real hard situation. I know the dietitians are working their hardest. They also have all these commodity and subsidy food items they have to incorporate.
Sure.
And there's a lot of laws from Congress that dictate you have to have this, the whole debacle from years ago that tomato sauce on a pizza counted as a vegetable.
Yeah.
So I would say I don't blame the schools or the school districts at all, because what they're being given from our government, the messages, the changing the programs, the guidelines change, this changes, is so hard. And then just the sheer... what they have to do is feed all these kids a breakfast and lunch, and then make it portable. And then you have to be able to drive it 2 hours to this school, if it's a decentralized kitchen or a centralized. So, oh my goodness. Is such on the cheap.
Right.
And then my biggest problem, I actually let my kids eat some of the food from the schools because I pack organic, homemade foods most days of the week. So it's like, go for it. Have your school lunch. Why not? It's the plastic packaging. The amount of packaging that one snack has breaks my heart. I thought that amount of waste from one kid at one school, that's not sustainable. There's got to be a better solution than one kid has about 5 different plastic baggies and they just blow in the wind and litter the school. Oh, that breaks my heart. So I got to work on that. But again, I should do something about it then. If that bugs me, I should write a letter. I should meet with someone and say, hey, how can I help you come up with a solution? There's no point in just
bento boxes for everyone.
I know. I don't know the zero waste equivalent of the lunch program, but it's got to be out there. But I understand if I could get my kids to eat quinoa at school, I'd be a huge fan too. Some summer camps do that, and it's awesome to not have to pack it yourself and then get all the grief for sending that, but have someone actually make it and serve it is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be the doom and gloom guy because I think you're right. I think people are starting to know that we need to make some changes, and more importantly, they're starting to vote with their wallet, right? People are starting to buy healthier foods and demand organic and sustainably grown stuff, and it feels like a movement that's getting going, and you know what?
I think so.
We'll get there because we have to. There's no other. If the obesity continues to rise in America at the rate that it's rising, we'll just be
the healthcare.
But we're not a preventative society. We don't take steps upstream. We're great at fixing stuff. We're great at clearing out an artery, but they don't want to spend. I wanted to get a calcium heart scan on my heart because I'm afraid of the blockage, and this big medical program, our provider said no, and my part of me was like, why wouldn't you want to know so you could prevent this? They're like, no, you have a heart attack, and then we'll go in and fix it.
But here's what I would say. You have diabetes. You're at a much 2 to 4 times higher risk of heart disease and stroke. So assume that scan came back and showed you have plaque, and just live as if it was, because odds are it will be. If not now, it will be.
Right.
So I'd say save the scan, save the money, save the time. Just live as if it came back positively.
No, okay. Well, I gotta
in
figure
a
out how to do that.
preventative fashion.
Yeah.
So absolutely. And I think that could be motivating or depressing.
I think more than latter.
Just to finish my thought, if we continue going in the direction that we're going, it'll be much easier to feed us because there won't be very many of us left.
There goes the overpopulation problem.
Right there.
Right. No, because we're just living longer because medicine's so amazing. Having worked in a hospital, they can keep people alive far longer than the human body was ever meant to be alive. So that doesn't...
But at what quality of life, I guess, would be
And at what cost?
At what cost, yeah.
Oh, we all complain about healthcare costs. But then again, when it's your family member, you better believe... we can all look from far and like, dang, that's costs too much to keep people on dialysis or to do this transplant or do this. But when it's your parent, you'd be like, yes, do 10 of them, more. More scanning, more testing. Because then all of a sudden, I get it.
Yeah.
So it's best to stay healthy. So what can people do today to start being healthier? Right. Yeah. I'm big into the take-home tips.
What can we do?
What can we do?
I
was like looking at you.
You're looking at me. You're like, wait, I'm supposed to do this? Oh, right. I'm the expert.
You're the expert.
I would say, first of all, start with water. Make the changes. If you have a habit that you're getting iced tea, even if you do half lemonade at your lunches or you do something other, have water. Even if you have a glass of wine with dinner, have the big cup of water there. Because when you're thirsty, have the water, not the wine. Have water be your default habit.
Can I ask you about hot or warm or cold water?
The body has the ability to bring it to 98.7 no matter what. So if it's really cold, you'll burn more calories warming it up. If it's really hot, you'll probably expend some energy cooling it. Just drink the water.
Okay, because I like cold water, and everybody's like, you should drink room temperature water because it's not allowing the body to be.
That's like people are like, oh, don't have acid food. I was like, the body has amazing regulatory mechanisms to bring acidic foods to the level of acidity it needs, or alkaline foods to the level. Cold water, it'll warm right on up, and you'll burn a few calories doing it.
I think I read the pH solution. I think you've read all these books.
Of course you have. That was a big one.
Okay, so water.
Yes. Okay, water. Let's all cut back on sugar. So let's look at, is your bread you're buying is high fructose corn syrup in the ingredient list? How about, let's just start with breakfast. Is your cereal have more than, I cut my kids off at 6, sometimes I do 7 grams of sugar per cereal, which leaves them with like 2 cereals in the whole store, which they hate. So on a holiday, they can have another one. Look at, is your yogurt. So just whatever you have for breakfast, day in, day out, because we tend to eat the same things, look at the sugar with fresh eyes. Is there a lower sugar version? Do you have to have the honey on that oatmeal? Do you have to have the sugar with that cinnamon? Just think about where, I think so much of it's habit. Have fresh eyes to see where you can break some habits. Then look at lunch. Look at, okay, dessert. Just say we do desserts on Saturdays. Yay. Or Sundays, whatever your meal, cut back to and just make it a habit. That's when we have it. Or if you have dessert, it has to be homemade. That'll really prevent a lot of excess desserts.
That's great.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I really resent our schools giving my kids so much sugar, because I love to bake. I want to bake a cake with my kids, without my kids, or a fun dessert that I've been wanting to try. And I want that to be their one treat. But they come home with sugar, with so many Jolly Ranchers. Now and later, so I'm like, well, now my cake, A, doesn't taste good to you because you've had pure sugar.
Yeah, mainline
so
sugar.
now my, semi-whole wheat pastry flour lemon cake isn't as yummy as what you've had. And now your sugar allowance has been eaten up, and I don't get to share my love, my cooking, my skills with my family. So I really resent that. Okay. So let's all look at the sugar in our diet. Does your barbecue sauce have a lot of sugar in it? Right. Does your ketchup? But again, I hate to nitpick, but it really is in so many places.
My wife has sugar sensitivity.
Right.
And it's very interesting because if we go have Chinese food, she'll be like, there's sugar in this.
Interesting.
And then immediately she'll get very giddy and silly. And it happens to her at work. And you should see, she'll start doing like pirouettes in the office, and she'll like get really silly, and she'll dance a little bit, and then she gets angry. And you can see it in her eyes, and then we'll fight about stuff, and then she'll get sad and she'll go to sleep, and then she'll wake up the next day and she'll be like, what did I do? And she'll be mopey that's her sensitivity to sugar. And we've brought this up with some of our friends, and one of my buddies' wives was like, why, we fight a lot. My friend and his wife, he's like, we fight a lot. It's usually after we eat. She cut out sugar and realized, oh my gosh, I have this sensitivity to sugar as well.
Interesting.
And I think, and I'm no expert, but I think we probably all have a little bit of this sensitivity to sugar.
Yeah.
Like we see it in Olin, when he gets sugar, boom, he's crazy and he's off the walls, and then he gets angry. And so I don't know. Right.
A lot of parents claim that. I don't know if the research is there so much. I don't know. Maybe it is. I'm sure Dr. Lustig would disagree. But I'll let him do the research since that's his job. But I would say anecdotally, we do see a lot of things. And I also wonder, okay, was it the birthday party? Did a kid pick on you? Was there fight? Was it what else emotionally was going on at that time to actually be able to tease out the sugar? But your wife's situation is very clear, because all other situations being equal, If it's the sugar, that was one thing that changed. Then go, and there's no reason to eat sugar, so let's all cut it out. Okay. Why not? It's a habit.
More water, less sugar.
And let's increase the fiber, like crazy increase the fiber. Like eat the down part of the broccoli stem that you used to feed your guinea pig or put on the compost pile. Like just eat the most roughage. And it's going to be a little painful at first. Your body's not used to it. Your bacteria's not used to it. Painful as in like you're going to be a little more bloated. You're going to be this. But that means you're eating the fiber, maybe. But you'll adapt over time.
Yeah.
So if you haven't had beans or lentils yet this week, don't let another day go by. And then have it a few times a week. Like that should be a main part of our diet. When was the last time you had lentils?
Right.
I don't think we eat
The paleo
enough.
people will be having a fit right now.
They can all spend $6,000 a month on their diet and with no scientific backing at all. And if they're losing weight, it's because they've cut out. Maybe sugar was their trigger. So good for them for cutting out sugar. And that's why
it's an insulin thing at that point.
And I will rarely talk people out of it. I get people in the elevators. They're like, paleo's been the best thing that's happened. I was like, good.
Great.
Clearly, you don't need me then. Let me help someone else. And I'm happy you found your solution. When maybe it fails you, come back and let's see what happened. How can you feel good again and get
like
that
I
success?
said, anytime you're thinking critically about what you're putting in your body, you're going to make better decisions.
And never underestimate the placebo effect. Oh my gosh, is that powerful? I mean, it is so strong. There's no more research needed to show that the placebo effect on so many things is very powerful. So is it the paleo placebo diet? I don't know. We'll see. So a lot more fiber, but that's hard. I think we should spend more time with specifics. How do you think you could add more fiber to either of your diet? Like
Metamucil. Boom. I got to thank you, doctor. Thank you, technology.
Metamucil, it's either the sugar-free, which has artificial sweeteners, which we know is bad for the microbiome, or it has the sugar in it, which we don't need more sugar.
I use Metamucil with agave because agave is healthy. I'm kidding.
I was going to say agave has the highest sweetener in fructose. It's like 90% fructose. It's the worst. And when I see that on all these menus on like skinny margaritas, I was like, no one's actually looked at the sugar profile of agave. It's the worst. No one would be buying it or eating it if they knew that. So that's like, if you want straight fructose, agave is your friend there. But the rest of us should avoid it. Psyllium husk, which is what Metamucil is without the brand name, is absolutely
psyllium.
Psyllium with a P.
Psyllium.
Psyllium with a Y as well. You can buy that and stir it into things that gels up. It's awkward to work with, but
I did a cleanse that had a bunch of that psyllium husk.
Psyllium, like pseudonym. So that's one thing. What about adding more vegetables?
I love
dinner?
vegetables.
How about 2 vegetables every dinner instead of the obligatory 1?
Right. You know, someone once said, fill your plate instead of with mostly meat and potatoes, like fill it mostly with vegetables and then the smaller spaces.
At least half vegetables. Some of that could be fruit if you're not working so much with insulin resistance or blood sugar control. You could do a little bit more fruit.
I love a big salad with like a little bit of steak on top or a little bit of chicken.
So one suggestion, I love salads too, highly recommend it, is add nuts and seeds. Okay. There's your fiber. There's probably some lectins, sorry. And don't have a big variety. Sunflower seeds, pepita seeds, pumpkin seeds, chia seeds. What are some other seeds you could
Those are like the top 3 lectin bombs right there.
Got to be more. Right, exactly. Hemp seeds, right. Those hemp seeds. Flax seeds, but you can't really chew those up. Your body can't break through that fiber. And then nuts. So walnuts, pecans. There's no bad nuts, really. I'd say macadamia nuts and Brazil nuts we don't need a ton of. But otherwise, the variety. So peanuts would be word of salad, but an almond, toasted, or walnuts. Pecans. What are some other hazelnuts? I love from Oregon. Delicious.
Nice.
Pistachios. So that plus seeds on top of the salad would add a huge nutritional boost. You'll get more minerals and fiber and vitamins that way, and flavor. Keeps it interesting.
What about nutritional yeast? What do you know about?
I love it.
Because I got on a kick where I made these really awesome salads with all of those nuts that you talked about, and some what did I just mention?
Nutritional
yeast.
I love it.
Which gives it sort of a cheesy,
has an umami flavor, and it's a vegan source of that umami. It's like Parmesan cheese.
And then I would use some of that Bragg's aminos on
liquid
there.
Aminos.
And I was like, I felt great. And I also got to a point where I was making a lot of my own hummuses, and I was making like a hemp seed hummus, and then I'd make like different kind of. And hummuses are great. You get a couple cans of chickpeas and some olive oil and some garlic, and away you go.
Garlic.
Yeah, and have fun. Some tahini.
Absolutely.
Look
Tahini
out.
salad
Boom.
dressings. You're set. Yeah, absolutely. I'd say that sounds like I love nutritional yeast. I sprinkle that on popcorn that I like pop myself with a little oil in a pan. And that's kind of part of the flavor. It's so good. Put it in I put it on the spinach tortellini, the same one that our kids like. Nice. I sprinkle that on with all olive oil and a little Parmesan. Get that vegan B12 source, allegedly.
Nice. Okay, yes. So water, less sugar, more fiber.
I think my work is done here. No, I'm kidding. No, what else?
I like that you said your alternate to dessert was a walk, a brisk walk.
I've read so many times, if exercise was a pill, it would be the ultimate miracle pill. It helps with depression. It helps with weight. It helps with blood sugar. It helps with mood. It helps with flexibility. It helps us feel good. There's nothing exercise can't cure, it seems like. But I struggle too fitting it in. I can come up with I think I'm just lazy, but I have every excuse on why. But when we do it, does it not feel like the best thing ever?
Doesn't it do the same thing to the brain that like a donut does?
Absolutely, but better. Actually, Alzheimer's part of the Alzheimer prevention program, exercise is a tenet of that. So our brain health, our heart health, everything, there's nothing exercise can't help with. So yes, that would be the best habit is you finish dinner, get those kids to help clear the table because I'm all about getting kids to some life skills, being helpful around the house. So us as parents, especially stay-at-home parents, aren't so bitter and miserable. So get the kids to help clean the table and then let's all go on a walk. Instead of dessert, that's the habit. Let's walk around the block. Notice plants, notice dogs, notice air, whatever. Just have that be the new habit. It's just habits. And I think the kids, honestly, just want to be with us. They just want attention, right? So whether it's attention from, you hand them a dessert or you take them on a walk and, if you can even hold their hands or do something sweet, I think you're just talking with them while you walk. I think that it would be beneficial in so many ways. And what a good habit to give the next generation.
Yeah.
Right.
Just a walk. They don't need a treadmill. They don't need to do CrossFit classes.
I got a treadmill in here if anybody wants one. It's on the other side of this.
I know. I think I want it, but then I know I'll never use it.
Sold mine last year.
Oh, really? I know.
We've got I think, is it 600 or 6,000 miles? I don't know. We got a lot of miles on that.
Oh, that's
we actually
great.
have used it. Gemma used it more than
6,000?
Yeah, 600,000.
That'd be impressive.
That's like New York and back or something.
It's a ridiculous amount of numbers.
Great.
I don't remember what it is.
Wow.
Anyways,
what do you got over there?
So you're an expert, but I want to know, how do you say PECAN? You say?
Oh, I say pecan.
So,
but I pronounce everything wrong. That's like a thing of me.
Where are you from?
I'm from Northern California, and people say I have a Southern accent. I pronounce
did right there.
I did.
Some people say I have a Southern accent.
If I watch British cooking shows, like I watch Nigella Lawson, I'm like, okay, we'll chop up shallots for the salad dressing. I think I'm a mockingbird. Like whoever I'm hanging around with influences me, and that becomes my diction or my pronunciation. So
pecan.
I say pecan. You could say pecan.
Not pecan.
So my mom from Minnesota says pecan.
Oh, your mom's from Minnesota.
Yes,
I'm from Minnesota.
yes.
Nice. Okay, tomato.
I say tomato, but I like to be pretentious and British, so I say tomato.
Oh, nice.
Yes, on the terrace. I mean, you can really get affected here if you wanted to.
Okay.
In the garage?
In the garage. Everything's classier if it's pronounced that way.
Acai. What do you say?
I say, why bother?
Yeah,
it's grown in South America. We don't need to eat it.
Are they healthy? Yeah, I haven't. Is it?
Yeah, all fruits are healthy. My biggest pet peeve is going into Whole Foods where they have that score of which, like, a blueberry has a higher score than this. I'm like, just eat fruits and vegetables. Right. Let's not get to the point where we need a score to tell us. And also, why are we eating something from South America? We have perfectly healthy Southern California, like Cara oranges. That's our equivalent. Just eat what's grown near you that's a healthy, and colorful. Eat it seasonal, eat color.
Right.
Variety. A blueberry, I eat that, but there's no need to import specialty, expensive nonsense that now the South Americans can't eat their own quinoa and acai berries because all of us crazy Americans are on some kick.
Okay, do you say gyro or euro or gyro?
I think it's euro,
Is it euro?
But I trust the Greeks on that, so I'd go to like the mall Greek.
So what I hear is the Greeks say euro or something like that.
That's like the Dutch thing where it's Van Hock, it's not Van Gogh. Like their G's are H's. Yeah, it's Van Hock. A G is not, like Gouda is Gouda. They don't say, no one says Gouda cheese in the Netherlands. Or No, it's all H's. So if you really want to get technical, we got a lot of work there.
I've heard it's bruschetta and not bruschetta.
Correct, bruschetta.
Bruschetta.
Yes. That I read on an Italian menu on Mother's Day. So I know that's like fresh information. It's bruschetta.
And it's pho, not faux.
Pho, correct.
Pho.
But pho just seems like phonetic, right? I was like, as long as we don't offend anyone, just say pho.
Well, all the restaurants around here are like, there's I love to tell this story. When I worked out in Chatsworth, there's this restaurant called Pho King Delicious.
That's funny.
There was on Reddit today, there was it said best employee shirt ever. And it was a guy that was like, had a t-shirt on, and he worked at a place called Pho King. And it said,
Exactly.
How may I fucking help you?
That's cute. That's cute. I like it.
Okay. And is it maraschino or is it maraschino?
Well, it seems like if that's an Italian thing and we're using the bruschetta as a model, it's got to be maraschino.
Right. All right.
But again, nasty. Red dye number 40, right? No maraschino, shino cherries for anyone.
Where's this red dye at? In anything that's red?
Just glow red, like high C red, Jello red, Kool-Aid red, maraschino red. If it's like glow in the dark red, it doesn't exist in nature.
What are those? And I've heard a lot of people talk about the dyes.
Yeah.
And what do they do? What do they do? And how dangerous are they? There's yellow and red, and
I think the red is the worst. One of the blues was the worst, but it was like banned. And then there's like the natural reds that come from that ground up beetle. Carmine red. It comes from a ground up beetle. I guess that's more natural. But what are the dangers of that? I know. Have you tried the cricket crackers and all? Those are disgusting. Crickets, cricket's the sustainable food answer. If you really want to be legit, and there's like 100 in my backyard that they're welcome to.
There's 1,000 in this garage that are not here right now.
We need more lizards. But yeah, the cricket, I guess eating bugs is where it's going to be. I don't have the stomach for it because I don't like crickets. But so yeah, the Carmine. So the food dye, the research, it's in processed packaged food. So even though I haven't recently read a study, because I read a food dye report a few years ago that was like, let's just avoid it. No one needs it. It's in packaged food. Let's just avoid it. If it has colors, artificial colors, just no need. No need at all.
Shop the perimeter of the store. That's what we're going to do.
Shop the unpackaged.
The unpackaged.
Exactly. And then when you can cook it yourself. I know it's work.
How do you feel about dairy?
Yeah.
Was it the China study?
Yes, T. Colin Campbell.
Yes.
I read all those books.
Yeah, so did I. And
Fascinating, right?
I know this shit, but I don't apply it, so I don't understand.
Well, and also,
but his whole thing
where's the research against the China study? Like, it's quite compelling. It was a massive study.
Right.
I have yet to read anything that compellingly argues against it. And so, okay, until then, it must stand as decent science. Why are any of us having dairy then? Right. It's cancer.
But this is
Yeah.
So the whole thing, to bring people up to speed on that, is the China study was a guy who grew up on a dairy farm in Vermont.
T. Colin Campbell, but he's not a dietitian or a medical doctor. He's a researcher. He's in the same camp as like Dr. Esselstyn, but they're all plant-based protein advocates. It's all heart-healthy diet. The Dr. Dean Ornish has actually reversed heart disease with his diet. So they're all kind of in the same camp together.
What's
Maybe
his diet?
Friends.
It's the plant-based?
It's the plant-based. It's actually pretty low fat. But the research is there. It's kind of hard to follow, like even low on nuts and olives. But it's reversed heart disease. So let that speak for itself. What's the lectin diet ever done? So,
but he says he's reversed heart disease as well, and all kinds of autoimmune disorders.
But have there been a peer-reviewed published study?
Reversed it too.
Right. So, but yeah, it's got to have because you have to actually read the research. You can't just take their advice. They might have a case study. They might have a poster session.
Call it anecdotal, because
but it really, unless it's peer-reviewed in a research article in like a peer-reviewed journal, it's could be scrutinized. So yes, T. Colin Campbell did research in China, and it was a massive study. So just there's something about research, just the smaller the study, like say you have 15 people in your research, it's really hard to draw a lot of conclusions because there's so much chance it could go there. But if you have 25,000 people, which I don't know the exact sample size of his China study, but it was massive because China's such a big country. And they had correlations with cancer incidence and dairy consumption, because I guess different regions of China consume different amounts of dairy products. First of all, we are not meant to drink cow milk. It's not necessary. So maybe as a dietitian, I'll just say that. your kids don't need it.
It's made to make a small cow into a huge cow in a very short period of time.
With a lot of hormones.
Yes.
I mean, I've been a nursing mother and the hormones coursing through your body. I think, oh my gosh, I'm drinking that of another species now?
Yeah.
I think it's kind of gross, actually. I'm trying out other nut milks. I just try and reduce the amount of recipes or meals that require a liquid, creamy thing, just so I don't have to, almond milk, coconut milk.
So do you eat cheese at all?
I do. I like some cheese, but not a lot.
I love like really good, like
not like what Americans eat.
A brie and
of course,
and a Huda.
Howda. But it should be on a small. Those should be very special foods, like desserts.
Oh, okay.
So eat them. They why not enjoy an amazing
a blue or a
whatever your favorite
Stilton.
Cheese. Yes, a really good, yummy cheese, but a small amount.
Does the culturing I don't know if that's fermented, but the culturing age process
inoculate it like the
does it
blue
change it enough that
veins doesn't make it healthier? No,
okay.
It couldn't be considered like a probiotic or anything. They do like the blue. Is then like a blue cheese, it is inoculated with a bacteria. Same with brie cheese. That's like a mold on the outside. But as of now, I'm not think that's like a very microbiome friendly food, but enjoy it as it's meant to be enjoyed. But be aware that what we do nowadays, like what's common nowadays is our only point of reference. American cheese consumption from like the 1970s to now has skyrocketed.
Right.
So what we think is a normal amount, like I only have it every dinner, is actually historically so much more than we should be eating. And it's very expensive and it's very intensive. Think of how much milk is used to make it. So I always try and follow kind of that law of nature. Like if it's a resource intensive food product, then maybe have it on a smaller. But yeah, I do have some. It's milk that grosses me out, the smell. I don't know. So yeah, cheese. I don't like yogurt.
It's interesting in Paris, like, after dinner, it's always a cheese plate.
Right.
And it always and she brought over this big cutting board after this one. She's like, pick 3. And I was like, I want that and that and that. And she cut off the tiniest little pieces. And I back here, I'd have been like,
well, here they would give you probably like 6 ounces or something. Right.
And they were and I realized that's just enough. That's all you need. Taste. You just need a taste of that cheese to sort of finish off the meal.
It is. And also be careful of extrapolating countries' dietary habits from their restaurants. Like I would hate for someone to come to America, eat at Cheesecake Factory and think, wow, Americans and their portions, I would be like, come to my kitchen. It's nothing like that. So I think when we go to France, even their restaurants are healthier than American restaurants. However, I bet the average French household has that cheese after dinner when they have friends over, when they're entertaining or on a special evening and not like, oh, it's 8:00, it's cheese time. I don't think that's a
smart.
Daily thing. So yeah, restaurant is still special food in all countries.
So wait, a pound and a half of meatloaf is not standard at every restaurant here? I don't
It is in Cheesecake Factory.
That's why I love small plate restaurants, because it's like I'd rather have a little bit of this and a little bit of that. If you get a pound and a half thing of meatloaf at Cheesecake Factory, 3 bites into it, you're like, all right, I got this meatloaf. I got to figure it out.
You and 8 people should share it. Yes.
I haven't been to a Cheesecake Factory in a long time, but how disgusting are the
I know. I hate to pick on them because they're not so much worse than the portion sizes are ridiculous. I know. Leave me out of that.
Yeah. The good news is it doesn't appear that chain is doing very well.
Oh, really?
Good.
Yeah, I've seen a couple close around LA. So
hometown buffet those.
It'll just be replaced by another place that serves massive quantities. And again, it should be a special occasion. You should absolutely share it or bring home enough leftovers for the next 6 meals if the portions are going to be that big, or go and have a salad. They have a few things on the menu that even a dietitian will eat.
Sure.
So
nice.
Yes. I'm so diplomatic.
Well, I feel like Mr. Doom and Gloom over here, I feel like we've turned it around and we have some very simple steps that we can all take to eat better and save our planet. So
thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and
You're
talking.
Welcome.
And now we're going to subject you to some silly stuff that we do every time in the podcast.
All right. It's a little segment called What the Fuck's for Dinner?
What the Fuck's for Dinner?
Oh. Do you want to start with me, the dietitian?
Well, yes. Yeah, because here's the thing that we run into. It's like every night, like, what are we going to do for dinner tonight? There's always that horrible question that always comes up every night. What are we going to do? And I think if we don't plan, we end up making poor choices. So it's all about planning,
Trader Joe's frozen foods. The key is planning. Any successful, healthy dinner was planned in advance. And I would say Monday, I get my CSA box. So I get an email, actually Sunday. So over the weekend, I know I'm getting broccoli, kale, spinach, carrots, and an avocado. And then I write it down. I'm like, well, the lettuce and spinach is going to go bad first. So that's boom, Monday, Tuesday. And then I keep some recipes. I'm like, all right, zucchini. Oh, everyone but me hates zucchini. Okay, I'll make a frittata. Or I have zucchini pancakes. You just go through a zucchini with Parmesan on top, like any zucchini restaurant, or I got one of those spiralizers, So, and then I plan it out. So tonight I have broccoli. So I'm roasting broccoli. So that means the oven's on. So what else can I have that needs to be baked in the oven? Because I'm not going to dirty stovetop dishes and an oven, and that's ridiculous. And the grill. So I have a recipe for these chicken tenders, which I bought organic. So they cost a lot more than frozen prepared chicken tenders that you could get, but I'm going the more expensive, labor-intensive route. And I am going to make my son do this because he's in testing all week, so he has no homework. So I'm going to whip up an egg in a little bowl. You put the chicken tender, get it wet with the egg. Right. And then it's almond meal with herbs. So I'm going to do dry mustard, garlic powder, either herb de Provence or Italian seasoning. Nice. Get it nice and breaded. Put it on a sheet pan. That's easy. A kid can do that, right? Like I'll be there supervising, but it makes them messy. I think they like it. Hopefully it'll be fun. I'll do the broccoli because that's knife skills. And I just do olive oil, salt and pepper to season. And then that's not enough though, right? I'm kind of stuck there. I have a protein, even though I hate to think of my meals in terms of nutrients. I got a vegetable. I have kale I meant to make last night, but I didn't because I worked late. We all have that. If you don't have it prepped in advance, you won't make it. Kale, raw kale needs to marinate in dressing for a while to soften it.
You can also take it with your hands and really squish it.
Yeah, and the oil really massage it.
Yeah, massage it in.
At 6:30 p.m. I was like, I had just kids that were ready to eat my calves or the table. So I had to kind of desperately fall on pre-prepared
You didn't have
foods.
time to massage your
I
kale.
didn't have time.
You whipped out a couple Eggos.
So I think I might add the kale, and then I'll think of some sort of grain. I love making whole wheat biscuits. That's a huge hit with the kids.
Nice.
It's fun to make. It's like a buttermilk biscuit, which again, me and Mike, I'll have buttermilk, which is fermented cow milk or cultured cow milk, but plain cow milk, no way. Or if I had planned in advance, I'd have my own sourdough starter. I'll make sourdough bread. For a whole wheat sourdough bread. It's like a grain just to go with that. But I didn't plan that in advance. So that will not be
sometimes?
I try once a week. Yeah, I just have a little, cool. It grows in your fridge, so you have to use it. So it's like a pressure. You're like, sourdough.
I used to make my own. The New York Times has a really great recipe on making bread, and I used to make my own big round rolls of bread.
The no need dough, but
bread.
It's all white flour.
That's white flour.
So I just sub it out with whole wheat flour, and you do not get the big, gorgeous holes because it's much denser. But hey, whole wheat flour, that's what we do. So that's with a cup of water. That's our dinner.
Wow. Okay.
How about you guys? What are you making?
That's a tough act to follow.
I'm making the same thing. I don't know how
same thing?
Yeah.
We were just on the same page. Are you copying my recipes?
Copying my recipes.
I have a couple Impossible Burgers growing in the lab in my sitting room. I'm going out with a couple friends tonight, so I'm going to try
Del Taco.
I'm going to try to make some good decisions at the restaurant.
That's what you do. You make good decisions.
Yeah. But the thing is, you talked about being Mr. Doom and Gloom over there, and that you got some good stuff out of this. I feel like, in all honesty, we're on the same page on a lot of this stuff, and I feel like I know a lot of stuff, and I don't know what the hell is wrong in my head that I can't apply it, because I know most of this stuff. Not saying.
Is it motivation?
Yeah,
that's where I think a dietitian's most useful. I would say most Americans know what to do. I'm not breaking ground by saying eat more vegetables.
Right.
You don't need to pay for that advice. But I think dietitians can help with the how. How do you do it? It's the tips, because I do it in my daily life. So you have to make it easy. If it's not an easy habit, you're not going to do it.
And another angle that I would definitely pursue is the emotional connection with food. Do you know what I mean? Like, why are you making the choices that you're making? And that might be more psychological than intellectual.
Yeah.
Right. So much of food is not nutrition. It's psychological. Yeah. It's cultural. It's habits. It's emotional, which you just got to come across a few new habits that are going to change it, and then you'll be motivated by new habits. But I understand sometimes it takes someone to get a diagnosis or a heart attack or
a wake-up call.
A cancer diagnosis, a wake-up call.
I
but
had
you
my
would
type 2 diabetes wake-up call, and I still am hitting the snooze button.
Right.
So
and habits are hard.
That's
But don't give up.
Yep. Don't give
you
up.
just got to find it.
Don't
You just
give up.
got to get there. That will be your mission to find out. And then once you do, you'll set yourself on the road for health.
There we go.
Love it.
Well,
Let's predict success.
yes, let's. Thank you so
You're
much for
welcome.
taking time out of your day
My
and coming
pleasure.
in and enlightening us.
was
This was
happy
a
to do
great
it.
interview.
Thank
yeah,
you.
agreed. And shout
you.
out to listener Dina for hooking us up with you.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
My favorite neighbor, Dina.
that's
Plus
great.
Anne. I have another neighbor that I love too.
Yeah. Don't
We're
leave
all,
Ann
we're
out.
all friends. I know.
Yeah, Ann's gonna be able to
Anne and
hook out.
Dina.
Well, cool. So, can I do my social thing?
Dude, plug it, man.
Yeah. Follow us on Instagram at Home Dad Show, Twitter at Home Dad Show. We're on Facebook too. And send us an email. We love listener questions and comments. hello@homedadshow.com. Amy, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
You're welcome.
And thanks everybody for listening.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.